I'm Sarah. Welcome to my channel. Okay, so here's the problem with New Year's resolutions. We make them in December where there's magic in the air and so much hope for the future, but we are still ourselves on the other side in the new year. We think that everything will be different, but we are planning for a self that doesn't exist yet. What happens is that as the year goes on and on and on, who we are doesn't line up with who we want to be. And when we see who we want to be, it's a little bit demoralizing. So while I love a good vision board and I love my bullet journal and I love planning, over the years I've found that they're not all that helpful and that only one thing has helped me to make progress. I'm not going to claim that it's fast or that it's easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. But it's the kind of work we have to do to actually improve in life. And if you have goals, and I know you do because you're watching this channel, you have goals. You want to live a better life, a more intentional life. This might be the way to get there. And we're going to get there by changing just one of your thoughts for the year. Let's think of each of your thoughts as tiny little experiments. The first time you have a thought, your brain is going to look for evidence to support that thought. And if it finds evidence for it, or if that evidence was the reason that the thought was created in the first place, then it will cement a little bit in your brain. As you go through life, your brain will keep looking for evidence to support that thought. Let's work with a little example. A year ago, I would have told you, if you had asked me if I wanted a YouTube channel, I would have said, no, no way. That is not for me. I am not that person. I don't want that. The thing is, I kept watching videos and I kept thinking about this YouTube video channel, how I would set it up, what I would talk about, all of the details of the channel that I would never have because it was not me. It turns out that that thought was a lie. But here's the thing, these are the thoughts that are holding you back. These are the thoughts that make you unable to complete your goal. These are the thoughts that have you looking back on February 15th and thinking, what the heck happened? I had so many goals. I had so much hope. It's because those kinds of thoughts wriggle their way in and you get disillusioned with that hope. So here's what I want you to do. Instead of making a New Year's resolution this year, or 5 New Year's resolutions, but instead of making just one, I want you to run a little experiment on the thoughts that are underlying your everyday. It's going to be 3 steps, so we're not going to run the scientific method on it or anything like that. I promise if you go through with this, it's going to get you that much closer to your goals. Here are the 3 steps. 1, identify the pervasive thought that trips you up most often. Maybe it's the one that's more general, or maybe it's a specific thought that constantly plays over and over in your mind like a refrain. Identify that thought. You might do so by journaling and just spilling your thoughts onto the page. You might do so by imagining your goals for the new year, like make an actual resolution, and then see what comes up for you when you imagine yourself actually doing those things, when you imagine yourself actually being the person who does those things. What do you feel? Does it feel right? Does something twinge inside you when you think about that? The tricky thing here is that the thoughts aren't always obvious to you. They're usually thoughts you have for just a split second. You may not even acknowledge them, but they're there. So this is where I want you to spend the most time. Journal, 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 journal as much as you can and see if you can find the thoughts that are really holding you back. This thought is your hypothesis about who you are. It doesn't matter if consciously you know you, quote, shouldn't think that. If you do, keep it. That's your hypothesis. So step 2 is where the magic happens, and this is where you're going to develop a null hypothesis. A null hypothesis in science must be proven wrong in order to prove the hypothesis right. And it's basically the opposite of the hypothesis. So here's an example. My thought in the first question was, that's not for me. And I think this thought all the time. A YouTube channel isn't for me. A best-selling book isn't for me. I can't chair that committee. I'm not a leader. It's not for me. So that's my hypothesis. In step 2, I turned it around and said, that is for me. Here's where the magic really happened. And I stumbled on this last year. I took the null hypothesis, that for me, and I made it into a question. Why not me? Why not me? And that way I wasn't necessarily asserting something that wasn't true, but I began to ask the question. And when I asked the question and kept asking the question, my brain started filling in the answer. So that's step 3 of this process. Practice the question. Write it on a sticky note. Stick it to your mirror. Put it on the desktop of your computer. Write it on your phone. Doodle it. Practice the question. Just ask it. Don't answer it with your typical answer because you're too whatever. Don't listen to those answers. Just let the question linger in the air. Every time that thought comes into your mind, that's not me, or whatever your thought is, just fill it in with your question. Why not me? The first few times you probably won't catch it at all. And it doesn't matter as long as you realize that your voice, that little voice, spoke. If you keep practicing this, maybe you miss the next time the little voice speaks up, but then the time after that, you catch it. And you say afterwards, wait, why not me? I think it's important to have that leading question there too. Why not me? And ask it with a little bit of attitude, because otherwise your brain kind of fills in the answers for literally why is it not you? And that's not really what you're asking. You're asking more of a, it's not quite rhetorical. You're giving your brain a leading question. Wait, why can't it be me? Why can't it be me? You're taking something that your brain thought was a truth and you're questioning it. For me, this one little question opened up a whole world. I had what could be considered a pretty challenging year. Let's just say that. It was challenging. And yet I found ways to learn, to write down my ideas in a way that I wouldn't lose them. I found this whole new part of myself that I wouldn't have found if I hadn't asked the question, why not me? If I hadn't pushed against that thought that kept saying, not me, not me, not me. So let me know what some of your questions are, your null hypotheses, the questions you're going to ask yourself next year to become the best possible version of yourself. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.